In this video, we're going to have a look at how to create bills of material or BoMs in your database. So that can be done one of two ways. We can expand the manufacturing area here, come into bills of material and click on new BoM. The other way that we can do it is by coming into the products area and segmenting out our manufactured products. So on each product, there is a box that you can tick to indicate that you manufacture that product. So you'll need to go and set these out first so that we can then use the products with bills of material as output items. So once you've ticked this box, you can come and add the I make this product column to a layout and then search that for true values. So this is now showing me all my manufactured products. I can then click on any of them here and go and click on bill of material to create a new BoM. I can also have multiple bills of material for a different product, and then I can specify which is the default. So if I put this one into edit mode, you can see here I can go and select from a couple of different BoMs I have in the system that all manufacture this item as an output product and select which is the default one. So for now, we're going to come into bills of material and create a new one from scratch. I can click on the new BoM button here and go and give it a name. I can also go and specify a location for this BoM, and I can add in any production notes that I have here. So anything that will need to be noted when we're using this in a work order, we can set this up so that it will populate over automatically. We've got some options over on the side here. So active means that it's a current BoM in the system. If you have BoMs for items that you're no longer selling or no longer manufacturing, you can come in and deselect this active box. So it just means that no one's going to be able to run a work order on that in future. So it's effectively a way of archiving these without deleting them from the system so that you still have the full history of the BoM. Adjustable means that when it comes time to use this BoM in a work order, people working in the work order can go and make changes to the underlying material. Now this can be useful for a couple of reasons. So it could be that there's a shortage on a particular type of product and we'd like to substitute it with another one. People would then have the ability to go and modify the underlying products or the quantities at that point in time. Conversely, we may not want to tick this box so that what is in our BoM is basically locked in and no one can make any changes to it. So if this box is ticked, people are going to be able to edit the products and the quantities at the time that they're doing the work order. If it's not selected, they're locked into whatever you've put in to the BoM. You can also choose whether or not this BoM can be expandable on sales orders. So what that means is that when we add the headline item, so in this case the brownies that I'm going to make to a sales order, we can also choose to expand all of the underlying components, so all of the input products that we have on this BoM on the sales order. So that can be handy because it lets us see the components. We can also hide those from the view of the customer if we'd like to, but it also means that we can quickly generate a purchase order for any of the ingredients that we need. We can also tick this box here to indicate whether we have non-sellable products. So that could be something like an item, a time product labor that we want to add in so that we can have that calculate into the cost price of the object that we're making. But in itself, it's not actually a stock track product or something that we're selling to the customer. We can also add in a setup duration here and a cycle duration. We can throw those numbers in manually, or as you'll see in the next step, we can have the system automatically calculate the time that it's going to take based on the steps that we input. So once I've got my basic information in here, I can hit on save and close, and then I'm given a couple of other options. One of the things that you'll notice on the saved record is that we have a copy button here. So that means instead of creating our BoMs from scratch, we can open an existing one and click on the copy button. We can then tell the system how many copies we'd like made of that particular BoM. We can also do the same thing from the main screen of manufacturing here. So opening manufacturing, coming into bills of material, I can go and select a couple of BoMs here and then also use the copy button at the top to quickly generate BoMs and put them in the system. So coming back to our main record here, we can set the options that we chose originally. We've got a setup cycle duration and we've also got a total cost. So these figures are going to start to populate as we go and add products into the BoM. So like all other records, we also have a timeline in here, which we can use to go and capture specific notes about production if we need to. So the first thing I'm going to do is go and add my input products. So this is basically the recipe or the list of ingredients that we're going to use to create our output product, which is the fudge brownies. So you can click here to add an input product and we can go and select from products in the system. So in this case, I'm going to use some butter and we can also select the quantities in here. I'm also going to add some flour. Now that I've got each of the items and their quantities here, you can see that cooking isn't actually my natural strong point. But what's happened up the top here is that the total cost figure has now populated. So that's based on, if I scroll over here a little bit further, we've got the cost price of each of these products, and the system already knows how many of them we're going to use. So what it's done is gone and multiplied that cost price by the quantity that we're using to add up the total cost of production. So it's at this point where we could go and add a product into the system here for something like labour, which I'm charging in 1 hour blocks. So I could also go and add this in here as a non-sellable product and also have labour factored into my total cost of production. So when we were talking about this adjustable box before, it basically means that once we get to the work order stage, people can go and vary these quantities and go and vary the actual products here as input products. Moving over to the Output Products tab, we now need to tell the system what it is that we're making. So this is where we have to have tagged our products as being manufactured before we start. So if you don't see the product that you want here, it's probably because you need to come into the inventory area and go and tick the I make this product box. Otherwise, it's not going to be visible here. So in this case, I'm going to pick the brownies and I'm going to say that this is going to make a batch of 20 brownies. So I can save that, I can have as many output products as I want to and keep going and adding the quantities here. What you'll see now is the Update Product Cost Price button is no longer greyed out. So what that means is the system knows how much it's going to cost me and how much I'm producing of this particular item. I can now click on this Update Cost Price button and then come back to my brownie product here, and the cost price for the product will be updated in line with what I've just entered into the BoM. So what the system's done is gone, right, the total cost of production is $92, including that labour product that I added in here earlier. But we're also going to make 20 brownies out of that. So it will divide that to figure out what the cost is per brownie and then come back and update the cost price on our product. So that's incredibly effective for being able to track what our actual cost of production is. So coming back into the product, we still don't have a setup duration or a cycle duration. So we're going to come in here to production steps and go and add some steps into the system. So let's take a look at the production steps tab. If I click here to add a production step, we'll see that I get a new window pop up here where I can input a range of details. So first of all, I can name the steps and identify them. I can give them a sequential number. I can differentiate between steps that are for the setup of a product versus ones that are per the unit. So for example, if I'm making 20 brownies here and I needed to put each brownie in a box individually, that would be duration per unit. Whereas if it comes to something like mixing the ingredients together in a batch before I can cook the brownies, that would be a setup step. We can also differentiate between the steps that require labour and the ones that do not. We can also assign a time value to each of these steps. We can also develop dependencies between different steps so that it's clear to people when they're conducting a work order in what order the steps should happen. If you've set up resources in your system, you can then go and select which groups of resources that you'll be using during production. So let's put in the first step to mix the ingredients. I'm going to say that this is step number 1, and it does require labour because someone's going to have to manually measure them out and pour them in and mix them. It is a setup step and it's not per unit because I'm going to do it once. I'm going to say that this is going to take somebody about 10 minutes. I don't need any resources for that step and it doesn't have any dependencies. So I can go and add that into the system. What I can then do is go and add further steps in here, so such as bake the brownies. This is not a setup step, but it's also not per unit. So I'm not going to go and individually put each brownie in the oven. I'm going to put them in as a batch. This is step number 2. It also requires some labour because somebody's going to have to put it into the oven. So I could specify and have different steps and say, right, put the brownies in the oven, which would require labour. Actually baking them in the oven, if they're just sitting there, that doesn't require labour. I'm going to say that they need about 30 minutes of cooking time, and in this case I'm going to go and select from ovens that I've set up as a resource group previously and hit on save. I can go and add as many production steps in here as is necessary, or I can not add any steps at all. What I can also do is go and link my products here to my production steps. So if we now come back to the Input Items tab, I can go and list these particular items against the Mix the Ingredients step and say that they're all linked to that particular step. So I'll go and link the butter and basically everything we need to make the brownies and select them all against that particular step. So when this transfers across and we use this bill of material in a work order, we'll be able to print off the instructions quickly and easily as a PDF and have a nice link between each of the steps that is required here with the ingredients. Once I've finished entering in my production steps, my input products and my output products, and linking them to my production steps if required, my BoM is now complete. So I now have the time that it's going to take for this production to occur, the total cost, and I can push that back to my product. So now that I have my BoM completed, I can initiate a work order in a number of ways. So I could come into the manufacturing area here and click on work order and then be able to select my BoM. I can also do so directly from a sales order. So if I now went and added that particular product, the brownies, to a sales order for a customer, so we'll go and pick a customer in the system here and we'll go and pick the brownies and say that we need 15 of them. So once I hit save and close, the system realizes that this is a manufactured product. Therefore, it gives me the option here to go and generate a work order. So I just need to confirm that that's the case, and then it will come up with the different BoMs that we have. So this is the one that I created a second ago, and say that I want to use that one for production. So if I now refresh the page, what will happen? So the system's now given me a work orders tab here and gone and created a work order using the bill of materials that I specified. I can quickly access the work order by clicking on it here, and on the work order you can see that we also have a sales order link so that I can get back to the sales order quickly. So in the event that you have multiple bills of material, you'll be able to select which one you want when you're creating a work order from a sales order. And that brings us to the end of the manufacturing area.